Paradigm shift is a term created by an American physicist, Thomas Kuhn. He argues that scientific advancement is not evolutionary, but rather is a series of peaceful interludes punctuated by intellectually violent revolutions, and in those revolutions, one conceptual worldview is replaced by another. Many paradigm shifts happened as new scientific discoveries were made. The one that we will be discussing is the discovery of the toxicity of lead. Lead is the 82nd element in the periodic table. It is a carbon group element. The chemical symbol Pb stands for plumbum because of its abundance in ancient plumbing. Lead is a very soft and highly malleable ductile metallic gray metal. It's also a poor conductor of electricity and has a relatively low melting point of 327.46 degrees Celsius. These properties make lead versatile to use. Before contact with oxygen, its color is bluish-white. Lead can be found in the Earth's crust. Traces of it can be found in soil, plants, and water. Lead, when left alone, is actually not toxic. But when they are mined and transformed into man-made products, they become highly toxic. Lead is poisonous to humans and animals, and it also becomes more toxic when it's in a gaseous form. Lead has been commonly used for thousands of years because it's easy to extract and easy to work with because of its malleability and it's easily meltable. Use of lead dates back to 7000 to 6500 BCE. The earliest ancient Egyptians used lead as sinkers in fishing nets, glasses, and ornaments. Other civilizations used lead as writing material, currency, and for construction. Ancient Chinese used it as a stimulant, currency, and contraceptive. Lead toxicity was recorded as early as 2000 BC. In 250 BC, Greek philosopher Nicander of Colophon reported on the colic and anemia resulting from lead poisoning. Rome was the biggest lead producer. In ancient Rome, lead poisoning was a disease of the wealthy. Back then, lead was present in cooking utensils and pots, wine urns, plumbing, vessels used to concentrate grape juice, containers used to store wine, and also cosmetics. Lead has a sweet taste and was often used to enhance the color and taste of wine. So back then, people consumed a lot of lead without knowing its danger. The Romans also exported their wine to outside the country. Germany banned Roman wine because it causes sickness, which they didn't know was lead poisoning at that time. In the 18th to 20th century, the number of lead-poisoned adults increased, and there was a clear trend that people who had these sicknesses were the ones who deal with lead in their job. Lead also caused fertility problems, and women who were exposed to lead were more likely unable to have children. The most diagnosed form of lead poisoning were the ones that were caused by paint. In 1887, the US medical authorities started to report and diagnose childhood lead poisoning, but lead was not identified as a cause yet. In 1904, scientists in Europe have started to link childhood lead poisoning to lead-based plants. This led to several European countries such as France, Belgium, and Austria to ban white lead interior paint. In 1914, some people, presumably parents, narrowed down the cause of poison deaths in children to chewing on their cribs. The cribs back then were painted with lead, but the scientists have not realized that it was causing the paint to be poisonous. Lead-based paints had a hint of sweetness in them, so that was probably why children were chewing on paint. Finally, after more researches and experiments, the National Lead Company admitted that lead is a poison in 1921. The League of Nations, an intergovernmental organization, accepted that lead is a poison after being officially declared so, and banned white lead interior paint in 1922. However, the US declined to adopt such standard and continues to use lead paint. A report was published in 1943 that concluded that eating lead paint chips causes physical and neurological disorders, behavior, learning, and also intelligence problems in children. However, in the United States, things went a little slower since the Lead-Based Paint Poisoning Prevention Act finally started acting in 1971. Lead-based paints were officially banned in the United States in 1978. Lead is not used in things that experience direct contact with humans anymore, the main example being paint. Buildings built before lead-based paints were banned in 1978 may have been painted with lead-based paints either inside or outside the house. Buildings built prior to 1950 are even more likely to have been painted using lead-based paints from both inside and outside the buildings, and people who are potential occupants, especially those who have children, would need to take extra caution. This is a serious problem for children living in an older house in large cities, where lead-based paints were more accessible for the mass. A CDC report found that 35% of children living in large cities with more than 1 million people had blood levels greater than the CDC action level established in 1991. In the 1990s, the Environmental Protection Agency required the information on lead be disclosed when a building, especially a house or an apartment, is sold or rented. Additionally, EPA workers were trained specifically to remove lead in paints on buildings. Lead-based paint continues to remain a serious problem for many children, even though it has already been banned. The diagnosing of lead poisoning in children kick-started the research process. Scientists became intrigued with the cause and did their best to research about it. A lot of the children were poisoned by chewing on lead-based paint chips from their environment, either from the walls or their crib, as lead-based paints often taste sweet. Lead was affecting more people than just through paint, such as through gasoline or through working with processing it. Claire Patterson, an American geochemist who pinpointed Earth's age for the first time, also uncovered that lead contamination is a major and potentially deadly problem. While doing an experiment, he discovered that his sample was contaminated by lead, and he investigated it. After much time and effort, Patterson's scientific work with lead paid off, leading to a ban on lead in products like gasoline, canned goods, and paint. Although lead was commonly used in a lot of countries, the most recent ones to ban it are the developed countries such as the US and Europe. Developing countries like Indonesia has only banned lead much more recently in 2006. As for the specific people who were involved, it would be the scientists and medical expert in the US and Europe, such as Claire Patterson. Now, nearly everyone knows that lead is poisonous and that it would cause detrimental health problems to children who are more prone to poison. Mass-produced things such as paint and gasoline do not contain lead anymore. Most occupations do not involve producing lead as well, which caused health problems to the workers in the past. When there is lead nearby, there will be a lot of precautionary measures such as warning labels and a professional in case something goes wrong. Now that the spread of information has been helped significantly by technology, it is easier to spread the danger of lead to the whole world, which speeds up the paradigm shift and significantly decreasing the chances that the world would revert to using lead.